Good afternoon. My name is Ralph Wood, and my topic is inflation for Econ 211. Inflation is a rise in prices, which can be translated as the decline of purchasing power over time. What this means is that as time progresses, the value of your dollar will go down in comparison to assets that can be bought with your dollar. Therefore, your purchasing power will decrease. How inflation has changed the price of a cup of coffee over time. In the diagram, you see 6 cups of coffee ranging from years 1970 to year 2021. In 1970, a cup of coffee would cost you 25 cents, but it gradually increases as the years go by, up to 45 cents, 75 cents, a dollar 25, a dollar 85. This is showing you that the value of the coffee would stay the same, but the dollar, in comparison to the value, would go down. Therefore, you need to spend more money to achieve the same cup of coffee. What causes inflation? Increasing the fiat currency supply in any way. And by the way, fiat currency is any paper note that we use as a money exchange or anything that doesn't have intrinsic value. It's regulated by the government, etc. Printing and giving away more money to citizens. Legally devaluing the legal tender currency. Loaning new money into existence as the reserve credits to the banking system by purchasing government bonds from banks and on the secondary market. So basically, anything that increases the money supply, they print money. Obviously, the more you have of it, the less valuable it is. Therefore, the more money they put into circulation, the less valuable it will go down. It would be. Types of inflation. We have firstly demand pull inflation, which refers to situations where there are not enough products or services being produced to keep up with demand, causing their prices to increase. Secondly, we have cost push inflation, on the other hand, which occurs when the cost of producing products and services rises, forcing businesses to raise their prices. Thirdly, we have built-in inflation, which is sometimes referred to as a wage price spiral. This occurs when workers demand higher wages to keep up with the rising living costs. This in turn causes businesses to raise their prices in order to offset their rising wage costs, leading to a self-reinforcing loop of wage and price increases. Okay, here we have a diagram that shows the four main types of inflation. They're referring to the speed. Okay, so firstly we have creeping and mild inflation. This is where prices would rise 3% a year or less. So this is pretty good inflation rate. All countries, or most countries, strive to have an inflation rate maybe below 3%, 3% or lower. Then you have a little bit faster inflation rate or higher inflation rate, which would be walking inflation, which would be between 3 and 10% a year. Then you would have galloping inflation, which would be um, a rise of 10, lower than 10%, lower than 10% a year inflation. And then lastly, you have hyperinflation, which is above 50% a month. This is not 50% a year, 50% a month for hyperinflation. Effects of inflation. Inflation can affect the economy in several ways. For example, if inflation causes a nation's currency to decline, this can benefit exporters by making the goods more affordable when priced in the currency of foreign nations. On the other hand, this could harm importers by making foreign-made goods more expensive. Higher inflation can also encourage spending, as consumers will aim to purchase goods quickly before their prices rise further. Savers, on the other hand, could see the real value of their savings erode, limiting their ability to spend or invest in the future. How to measure inflation? The inflation formula, to get the percentage inflation rate, you would have to take the CPI index value divided by the initial CPI value times 100. And there below we have just a diagram just to further lay it out for you. And CPI means Consumer Price Index. Advantages and disadvantages of inflation. Pros: leads to higher resale value of assets. Optimal level of inflation encourages spending. So what this means is that as inflation rates go up, or as inflation progresses, um, people who hold assets will be the value of your asset will go up. So maybe if you have a piece of property that you bought for 20,000 this year, and maybe 3 years later it's worth 40,000, then you would benefit from something like that. Also, inflation encourages spending. So what you would have is you'd have higher spending rates because people would want to spend the money faster because they see the value decreasing in comparison to the products, meaning that the products will get more expensive. Therefore, they would want to get rid of the money faster and put it into these products, leading to a more financially stable economy or more prosperous economy. The cons of inflation. Buyers will have to pay more for products and services. Impose higher prices on economy. Drives some prices up first and others later. Okay, so what this means is that this causes the cost of living, things like the cost of living, to go up as a result of many of the products in society, their price raising, their price going up. So the dollar goes down or is devalued, therefore the goods would cost more money to obtain. And this would hit the poor person, the lower class first. Controlling inflation. A country's financial regulator shoulders the important responsibility of keeping inflation in check. This is done by implementing measures through monetary policy, which refers to the actions of the central bank or other committees that determine the size and rate of growth of the economy, of the money supply. Okay, so what this means is that the central bank tries to keep reins on inflation by controlling the money supply. They control how much money is in circulation at any given moment. So they keep tracks and charts and and different statistical information about the amount of money in circulation, and they try to limit it to a certain amount of money or keep it at a certain level in order to keep the value of the currency um, at a certain point, and prevent things like hyperinflation, because hyperinflation, as we mentioned before, that's above 50%, is something that we really try to avoid as a society because it can hurt the economy. So the central bank would limit the amount of money in circulation, or I should say control. Okay, on this diagram here, we have 5 facts on inflation. All right, this is mainly based in the US. So I don't know if you want to take a look at this. The Federal Reserve defines inflation as an increase in the prices of goods and services over time. Number 2 is inflation can be caused by many factors, including too many dollars chasing too few goods. Inflation rate for the 12 months ending January 2021 was 1.4%. So this is in the States, in the US, and their inflation rate in January 2021 was 1.4%, which is pretty good because it's under the 3% threshold, meaning that it is I think it was crawling or something like that. The Federal Reserve uses the federal funds to rate and modulate and modulate inflation. All right, so this is just playing into the part where the central bank would control the money supply. The Federal Reserve adopted an inflation target of 2% in 2020 and 2012 following the global financial crisis. How to protect yourself against inflation. Adding certain asset classes such as commodity or real estate to a well-diversified portfolio of stocks and bonds can help buffer against inflation. So you could protect your investment, protect your savings, protect your monetary savings by putting those savings into asset form rather than keeping it in your bank account. So say if you have let's say $50,000 in your bank account, you wouldn't want to keep it parked in your bank account because inflation would destroy the value of that money over time. What you would want to do is put it in something like real estate or stocks, which would hold value. They might increase value and beat the inflation rate, so they'd give you a better return on your investment instead of just parking it in your bank account, which once inflation starts to kick in, will start devaluing the money in your account. And maybe you put in 50,000 one year, and then the next couple of years maybe you only have 45,000 compared to the 50,000 that you would have had before. Spending power, I'm referring to. That 50,000 will become less valuable as the prices of products go up. Therefore, you'd want to put it in something like real estate or stocks, which would give you a return every month or so on your investment, and it would appreciate in value instead of depreciating or staying the same and letting inflation get to it. Secondly, you want to be cautious about allocating about over allocating to cash, but make sure your emergency fund is keeping up with rising costs. All right, so what this is saying is that you shouldn't keep again much money in cash form. Rather, you should turn it into other assets. But what it's also pointing out is that you should be careful of your emergency cash fund. So what this is, and everybody knows an emergency fund is the money that you keep in your bank account, or you might keep in your safe just to for emergency situations when you need that quick cash or um, fiat currency to bail you out of some situation, or help you with some investment or something like that. So you need to be keeping an eye um, on that fund in relation to inflation, because over time that fiat currency that you have in your savings account at the bank or your safe at home or under your mattress will devalue over time due to inflation. Therefore, keeping it in an asset such as stocks or real estate might be better, or some sort of investment might be better than keeping it parked up in the bank or in the safe. Thank you for watching my PowerPoint. All right, this is the end of the video.